Man, good evening, everyone. How y'all doing, man? Man, it's almost Juneteenth, so we gotta feel like we are black folks in this place today. You know what I mean?
So, yes, I am the president of Integral Florida, which is a division of the Integral Group, which is based in Atlanta. We run our development office for the state of Florida and the Caribbean out of Miami Beach on Lincoln Road. So that's how I appear here, but I've been doing real estate probably about 20 years. I'm an engineer by background, and then I found a very circuitous way into development, starting with building infill homes in Miami-Dade County and then growing from there. But I happen to have met Terry probably 10, 12 years ago now along that journey. I think when I first met you, I was just trying to graduate from building single family homes and tract homes into apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And it was somewhere around before the great financial recession and all of that stuff. But anyway, enough about me.
It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Let's talk about you, because now you were on that path and you came from a whole different lens than where I came from. You were in the general contracting business when I met you. So maybe just give the folks a little bit about yourself and then a little bit about your journey, and then I'll ask you a few questions.
Cool. Well, good evening, guys. It's a privilege to sit in front of you this evening. What I like most about being black is that it creates very unique opportunities. And so in this space, in this world that we're in, I use it as one of my competitive advantages. So from school, I was discounted. I went to Berkeley, #1 public institution in the United States of America. I was one of 10 African non-scholarship folks in my architecture program and in my incoming class. From there, I went and got a job with a large real estate construction management company called Bovis Lend-Lease. I was one of 2 African Americans that worked there as well. And because of that, I bonded with another young guy that kind of took me under my wing and got the spirit of entrepreneurship. From there, I left Bovis, and then I worked for Marriott Corporation. I was the youngest and the only African American there as well. So I give you this little theme of being the only and the lonely, because it is a pattern and a theme that you'll recognize along this journey. And one of the things I love about Evans and Chad is that when you see folks in these circles, man, you got to be able to just say what you know and you don't know, and they'll help you fill in the gap. And what Kareem is being like a little bit modest about is that I was very young in this process, trying to underwrite a very large institutional deal. And when you're doing that, folks kind of know that you don't know what you're doing because of the questions you ask or how you respond to them. Now, fast forward, I've been evolved quite a bit since then to be privileged enough to scale the business and to do some pretty amazing things. But it was a very, very gradual process, a huge steep learning curve. And along the way, it was people like the folks in this room that really helped me because they wanted to see me win. And so I wanted to say thank you again to being a part of my journey, man, because you don't know how cool it was to sit across from someone knowledgeable and not calling me out on the stuff I didn't know at the time.
Well, I don't know how much I did, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, I know you're doing big deals now, bigger deals. Let's just put it that way. I think, we probably swim in that 200 to 400 unit, and some folks will look at us and say that that's not a big deal.
Correct.
Right? Because they're doing 800, 1,000 units, right? And like you said, there's a journey. You're going from here to there. But maybe, let's take it back to the early days when we were doing 1 to 4 units, and just kind of talk about what were some of the challenges from the standpoint of even just getting that first deal started on a 1 to 4 unit build.
Sure. We don't have to take it back. I want to talk in current real time.
Okay.
I'm happy to announce this Monday, we got our building permit for a 4-unit deal. We designed it, financed it, and we're going to build it. So I'm living it. I'm living it right now, right? So it's not, you don't have to go too far back.
And what's funny about that? Even though I do build 200-unit buildings now, I'm doing 2 duplexes in North Miami Beach just for my family, personal, outside of my relationship with Integral. So it's funny that we're still doing that, and maybe even financing out of our own pocket these days. But congrats on that.
Yeah, the reason why I say it's important is because the opportunity and the process is really the same. And the reason why we respectively still do small deals, because they pay the bills and they create instant cash flow. And so you gotta kind of know where you're going. And so for me, I started out, large corporate, doing all this kind of stuff. But when you don't have daddy's checkbook, you got to do something that is in your wheelhouse. You got to do something that you can put your hands on. And so right now in the city of Riviera Beach, it was a lot. It was a kind of an off-market lot, some hairs on it, what we were talking about from a phase one standpoint. But really, it was about the zoning. And the zoning changed in the city to change the configuration. And so from our standpoint, the dirt was good, the dirt was clean, the price was right, but the challenge was now you can't use the old rules and regulations from, say, call it 2005. You got to get into this new plan of action where they want to see the building in the front, the building in the front and the parking in the back, and that created some extreme challenges in terms of design. Now, I told you my background is in architecture, which helped, but at the end of the day, I had to bring in we had to look at it collaboratively with the city to really understand the rules, the regulations, so we weren't just kind of spinning our wheels for the next 6 months.
And so you kind of alluded to some pitfalls. So kind of talk to, maybe even time, because even when I started, I didn't understand what people would tell me. Time is money, time is money. You hear that all the time, and you're like, until you really realize what it means. So maybe talk about pitfalls, and even in the context of time is money, how that applies, and whether you're building 1 to 4 units or even larger.
Yeah. So I don't want to pretend like this is not a path for wealth creation, but just like being Black, you have to persevere, and it takes time. And so it is not a get-rich-quick process. It is not an overnight type of success. And one of the things that we always talk about is access to capital, which is the next part of this. But the capital that people don't talk about is pursuit costs. And that's a fancy word, but it's really about the money you got to spend out of your pocket just to create the opportunity, right? I got to spend $5,000 on a phase one out of my pocket just to go talk to someone about giving me $200,000 to invest in my project, right? So I got to spend another $20,000 out of my pocket just to draw the initial plans for someone at a bank to say, yes, I believe that your costs are in line for this 4-unit deal. So the time aspect is important because you got to figure out how to pay your bills, how to keep the lights on, but also use your savings or your access or your 401k or whatever you have your hands on to do the little small things in the first part of development to pay for them yourself. And if you're not prepared for that, it becomes very, very difficult to even have and engage in a conversation with the Courtney or Chad about your project. And so the time value, you can't really put like a box around it. You got to be willing to invest in yourself. So that's the first part of that. And I think the second part about time is that if you know it doesn't work, let it go. Like, let it go. Like, let it go. I have battle scars from trying to.
We all do. Falling in love with the deal.
Yeah, I have battle scars from trying to will something to work that doesn't work because it's really, really cheap, or I'm the only person that has access to it. Well, there's a reason why it's really, really cheap, and you're the only person that has access to it, because it doesn't work. And so you have to be able to really quickly do your go, no-go process on a big deal, on a small deal, a medium deal. You really have to be able to say to yourself, hey man, this doesn't work, cut your losses and move on to the next opportunity.
I call it failing fast and recovering and growing from there. It's sort of like doing like this instead of miring yourself in the rut, trying to figure it out. And that's really good advice. I think I've learned that lesson more than I should have, more times than I should have. Right. So now we talked about some of the pitfalls. What are the upsides and I think real estate is often looked at as like this glory thing that you're making all this money. And I even in our business, sometimes people are, you have to carry overhead if you have staff, right? And so if that deal takes 2 years to close and you're paying everybody $200,000 or $150,000, whatever you're paying out of your office, and you got 4 of those, it's a lot of money you got to cover. Yeah. So, now let's talk about some of the upside, but do it in the context of, like you said earlier, this is a little bit of a journey that you kind of need to save. You need to be financially responsible, but maybe even some other things beyond that can be positives about this business that you've learned and while you're still in it.
Sure.
After the battle scars.
There's a saying you'll hear amongst the guys or the people in the room. It's called a liquidity event. Every one of us lives for it, right? And so there's different times you have a liquidity event, and that's basically a fancy word of saying when you're going to make some money along this development timeline. And what you have to realize, if you're going to be a professional, there's some businesses that only focus on the first part of a deal, and that's where they create a liquidity event and get out and do it over and over again. There's other folks that do the hard part, which is building it, which is a lot of risk, and then they create another liquidity event and get out. And then there's other folks that buy it and hold it and create what we all want is passive income. So you have to be able to kind of understand where you want to play or where the deal is in that spectrum of liquidity events. And so I've been privileged to be on all aspects of it. So the first of the month looks really cool most of the time, right? Because there's a mortgage that is due and there's somebody else that's paying it, right? That is a great feeling, right? But what Kareem is talking about is that what do you do with that excess cash, right? Are you going out to buy really cool Gucci loafers, right? I got my old Gucci loafers on for 10 years. They're 10 years old now, maybe a little hole in the bottom, because that $1,000, no, seriously, that $1,000 I got to spend on another phase one that I want to look at another deal, or I got to pay my admin, my project manager, the other folks. And so you got to be really, really strategic about what you do with your cash flow, because it is true. Like, balance sheet looks good, things are coming in, but the folks that are disciplined with that revenue are the folks that you admire or you see on TV or the people that you read about, because that cash has to be reinvested in things to make the business grow or to get into more deals or to collect more assets. So hopefully I answered.
No, you did, and we literally have I'm under time, 4 minutes. But I will say that you and I, what they don't know is you and I were going to do a deal together. And it didn't work out because we didn't think it was the right deal for us, for reasons we shared. You eventually went on to do that deal, and we're still friends.
Yes.
And so I think that's important. Also, this is a business, and so I have a certain set of principles or directives that guide me in the business, and you have certain that are not necessarily the same as I have. And so we make decisions based on where we are in the business cycle and in our own business lives. And I just appreciate that, because folks think that Black folks don't work together. This is the biggest lie that somebody done told.
It's true.
Because we work together very well, and we will find that deal that we're going to do together. And we're now approaching that stage in our lives where we're able to even say that we're going to do these types of deals together. So I appreciate you, and I just wanted to share our personal story with everybody here. But thank you all for listening to us, and we're going to turn it back over to Chad.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.